Hey guys, this is Javier with The Real Javier Novoa, a channel, a platform, and a modality where we apply the principles of philosophy, spirituality, business, and mysticism, and good planning, and GTD to rapid lifestyle transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my war room. Welcome to the cockpit, the center of operations here. Today is basically going to be a non-scripted, sort of like a very short, very concise workshop here. And I basically want to show you how to get the basic tenor of one of your sessions for the metaplanning, for the first stage of this, which should last, there's plans to last until October, until you actually start the testing phase of this. This is not pre-planned, although I've done it many times, but this is going to be a brand new session here. It's going to be a brand new, so to speak, iteration of this planning process. I want to do it along with you to sort of give you a feeling of what to expect and what to do with this. And of course, I have here, ladies and gentlemen, the very basic setup here. Very basic. These are my end baskets from GTD, and I hope you can see them here. So I've got these end baskets. Of course, I've not gone through my end basket yet today, but basically the end, and we're going to make more videos on GTD, but basically the end basket is where you put all of your physical papers and items that have not yet been processed. Let's say you take a business card, let's say you take some notes, you don't yet know where you want to park those, you'll put those in your in basket. I've not processed them yet, but I'm going to be processing them later. You can even let it go for 1 or 2 days, that's perfectly fine. But you process everything that's in your in basket, and you basically ask yourself, what is it, and what's the next action on it? Of course, I have right here the second one, which is my pending basket. Of course, I have right here a beautiful cup of coffee with some olive oil in it, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, olive oil. Makes your coffee very velvety smooth, makes it delicious. I recommend you try it today, especially if you're doing a long-term planning session here. Very delicious. And then this is, of course, a read and review basket. And this is basically things I want to read, I want to review, and so on and so forth. That's just a basic gist of it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, GTD aside, we're going to be going into that a different day. What I want to do is sit down for a planning session. And remember, this is one of the first sessions where we're going to be basically planning our plan. We're not going to be planning anything yet specific, unless it comes up, by the way, because you can and often will go down rabbit trails. You can't expect anything to be linear. You might be given the whole plan tonight, right now, in your first session. If you do that, run with it, because it's a beautiful impartation, it's a beautiful inspiration. But that might not happen. That's okay too, because you want to have fun with this. You want to have your hands in the clay with this. So I've got my trusty note taker here. You can use a notebook, a pad, whatever. And I just want to sit down, so I just want to sort of relax. So here I am for my planning session, right? And I just sort of want to get into sort of alpha state. It's very important that you try to do this. Or don't try it, do it. If you can't do it, don't worry. If you're feeling bad, still go through the process so that you can get consistency, and you will feel good after you do it. But if you can, and if you're relatively calm, sort of like drop everything. You can even look up into the horizon. Some religious traditions even pray, like before doing study or planning sessions, they'll say something like, Lord, bestow upon me the light of your wisdom. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Whatever feels good for you. And just spend that time, ladies and gentlemen. Invest time. Because remember, your desire doesn't take time. And time, rather shall we say, your power's outside of time. Therefore, don't be afraid to invest time. Might be a little paradoxical, but stay with me here. Invest time. And just if you invest 1, 2, or 3 minutes in just getting into an alpha state, you're going to have a lot better chance of getting into that flow. And when you get into that flow, ladies and gentlemen, that's just going to, your planning session is going to be a powerhouse. It's going to be powerful, ladies and gentlemen. As we've said in previous videos, just approach this like a spiritual practice, especially in the beginning. Now, I'm assuming you have no idea how to do this. I'm assuming that you're starting from zero. If you do have an idea, of what you're doing, go ahead and approach that. But I'm assuming we have no idea how to do this. Now, I feel like I'm in a pretty good alpha state. Thank you, Father. I'm just relaxed. I'm calm. Now, what are we going to do today? Well, I really don't have a schedule. I do have a list on my GTD system on my phone of certain steps that I'm taking, but that's because I've already done a few sessions and I've made lists of certain things I do. You can do things on that list, but I'm assuming that this is one of your first sessions where you don't have a list and you don't have a pre-planned conception of what to do. Now, what we do have, and what I recommend that you do, and this is part of GTD, keep a folder. And look, on this folder I've labeled it, I hope you can see this, F. And that is what the letter that we're assigning to. You can assign any letter that you want, but it's the letter I'm assigning to this project of freedom. Okay? And that is freedom from a job and a boss within a year. We're going for a year so that you can have more space and more time just to do it very gently. But we're having freedom from a job and a boss within a year, ladies and gentlemen. And I've got some lists, like I've got my main paper here, and this is what we recommended that you do in the beginning. And you can do this now if you haven't done that. I just want you to sit down, you can do it very gently and very quickly if you haven't already. You put the letter, which is F, which is freedom, with some lines going off. And this is inspired by the great Joe Dispenza. And then on one side, you put all of the physical aspects of that. So it could be the specific income that you want. It could be the freedom of schedule. And that's what we recommend, basically. You have freedom of schedule and you have freedom of place. You can do it from anywhere you want and you can do it any time you want. And that you're flexible, and that mine is that I only have to focus on it 3 to 4 hours a day, 4 to 5 days a week. And I can take any day of those days off that I want just randomly. And those hours can be at any time that I want. So, for example, I could do it at 8 o'clock in the morning, or I could do it at 1 o'clock in the morning. I have complete freedom of schedule. And then for the rest of the time, I could just focus on other things. And this can be done, ladies and gentlemen. It's proven. In fact, if you look at the great Trevor Blake, who's an executive in the pharmaceutical industry, you can look him up. He's got a lot of great books. And he did write a book that's, I believe, free from his website called The Practical Magic of the 5-Hour Workday. Of course, we're cutting a little bit more. But you need not work beyond 5 hours. That includes breaks and so on and so forth. You can do this. It has been done by many people. And there's even people on the prison grid are not saying that this is impossible. Of course, they're trying to convince you that it's impossible. That's why we're making these videos. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So, but what I was specifically looking for here in my folder was the little list that we made here of sort of the nitty-gritty of what we're doing in this planning process. Aha, so here's that little list that we made earlier. Now, one of the things that we focus on, don't try to do this in a specific order. Just relax and let it flow. Relax and focus on something that inspires you. You don't have to necessarily focus on one thing first. Focus on what inspires you right now. Everything else will come out of that. So the first thing is, what do I need to successfully pursue the first stage of this process? Because, and of course you can also visualize the end of that, and we might do that too, but right now I'm just inspired to really get down to the nitty-gritty of what do I need for this process. Well, what do I need? Well, I need the dedicated space, which I have. And of course you want to theme out your space. And that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be putting some things on the wall, so on and so forth. You want to get your space, or what we call the metaphorical war room, set up. Many authors have talked about this, not least of which was the Trump book on entrepreneurship. I forget the author's name, but he said that was the first thing he did when he started a new project, a new venture, was get a war room that's basically focused on that theme. And for me, my office serves just fine. If you have larger space and you can dedicate a room to this that's separate from your everyday office, if you need that, even better, but you need not have that separate space, but you can. So, we need the space. You need the GTD, ladies and gentlemen, and if you don't know GTD, I'd recommend you read the book, but if it feels like a hassle to you, if it feels like work, we're going to make a video explaining the steps to this, getting you the Pareto principle aspects of it. The 10% is going to make 90% of the impact. You can start implementing it immediately. In fact, one thing that you can start implementing immediately, you're going to need it, ladies and gentlemen. Have a capture tool everywhere you go. And things to write on are better, actually, than digital tools. This has been scientifically proven that the human brain is more favorable towards pen and paper. It basically maps and models the way the human brain works better in a a physical, spatial sort of representation. It mimics the way the brain works a lot better than digital tools, actually. I know that's going to be heresy in some circles, but get yourself capture tools. Have them everywhere. You know why? Because ideas are not going to come to you usually in full form during your planning sessions. Your planning sessions are basically going to be preparing the ground, sort of smoothing the path, and then those ideas are going to come to you while you're in the shower, while you're working on something else, while you're taking a walk, while you're listening to music, while you're having a meal. Those ideas are going to come to you. You'll want to capture them because many ideas come very quickly and they go very quickly because we don't capture them. They're sort of like dreams. A lot of your dreams, you wake up from them, they're so vivid, and then you forget them a few minutes later. Such are ideas. Why? Because they're all in the ether, ladies and gentlemen. It's a very interesting point. So you need capture tools. We're just making a random list here, right? And don't feel like you have to do anything with this yet. And what else do you need for your for your gear? You need dedicated time, ladies and gentlemen. And that leads us down a little rabbit trail. And it's a good one to spend some time on, a few minutes on. Because, ladies and gentlemen, we can now go into negative thinking, ladies and gentlemen, negative planning. Because, remember, we've talked about in previous videos, I believe we talked about in the last video, one of the best ways to tackle a topic or to tackle a pursuit or a plan or anything that you want to get done is by approaching it negatively. Ask yourself, what are the things that could go wrong? And this triggered right now the thought of making a list of what could go wrong with my plan. Let's go ahead and do it right now. Because of the fact that setting up time, if I don't give my plan any time, well, that's a real negative. That's a way that it could not come into fruition, at least on this film roll. Of course, we know that you already are it, but for the sake of the game, and we're going to be moving real quickly between the game and between the ultimate, so you have to try to follow me here, and if you don't, that's all right too. You'll get it. Just keep watching. But what are the negatives that could happen that could stop me from pursuing my plan? Well, not giving it any time. Right? That's one. Another one is not feeling like doing it and then not doing it. So, not doing it. Another one is not being able to focus. Why? Because you have distractions around you. So, distractions. These are just some very basic ones, right? You can make a bigger list, but we can just go with these. Now, what are some things that I can do to sort of nip these in the bud before they actually become a thing, before they become a problem? Well, what would cause distractions? It could be the internet and your phone. And now, while I don't recommend that you disconnect from the internet because you're going to want to look things up, I do recommend that you make some kind of commitment not to allow yourself just to blindly go on social media. And of course, there's a limit to this too, because you don't want to make any law for yourselves, ladies and gentlemen, because remember, there are no rules, you make the rules. And you may well be inspired to go on to social media and you don't even know why, but you might find something there that will inspire you. But what I'd recommend to do is tune into your feelings. If you get the trigger to go onto social media and then you feel like bored or you feel any sort of guilt for doing that, then I'd recommend that you don't do that and you refocus on what you're trying to focus on. If you get a nebulous inspiration to go on social media and you feel good about it and you sort of feel called to do that and you feel an interest, then by all means go and get on that. So this is a very tricky area, but it's something that you can do to sort of minimize the distractions, minimize connectivity to social media. I'd even recommend perhaps turn off your phone, at least in the beginning stages of this, till you get a feeling for that. The other major cause of distractions will be family members and people who are inhabiting the same space as you. And that's why I recommend you sit down and you have the conversations. You go and sit down with your significant other. You go and sit down with your family members if you're living with brothers and sisters or parents or roommates or what have you, and say, look, I am working on a new project. Don't tell them what it is, because remember, as Jesus said, go forth and tell no one. And all of the great masters, whether it be Neville Goddard, whether it be Joel Goldsmith, whether it be Abraham Hicks, say, don't tell anyone about your plans until they're complete. Why? Because they can talk you out of it. And there is something in many traditions called the evil eye, which I think relates to energy, and I think also relates to people talking you out of it. So at any rate, it's better not to talk to people about it, unless they're a very trusted individual whom you know will support you 100% and whom you know doesn't harbor any ill will towards you. But you want to tell them basically that you're working on a project for business or for work, and just leave it at that. And say that I need this time. And remember, you can start by just cutting out 30 minutes or 15 minutes even, and you can work your way to however much time feels comfortable to you. So you can make it an hour and so on and so forth. And don't worry, because you're not going to get overwhelmed because of the next thing that we're going to talk about. And this is, remember, this is the way this planning works. That we just go down rabbit trails, you allow yourself to go into tangents, and you allow yourself to just disparately and randomly focus on different topics as they come up, as associations are made in your brain. Remember, this is not a final draft, this is a rough draft. So if anyone watches this video and thinks, well, this guy's just rambling like a madman and he has no theme, that's right. Not like a madman, but like a man possessed with inspiration, because of the fact that this cannot be organized. Remember, information gets organized after the acquisition and after the connections are made, not before. That's why, as David Allen talked about, that when his teacher would have them make outlines in English class, and many of you will sympathize with this, many of you will resonate with this, they would write the paper first and then make the outline later, even though the school system, the prison grid, tries to get you to make an outline first and then fit into that. So we're not fitting into any kind of outline, but what I was saying, that you're going to have to talk to the people around you, basically tell them that you're working on a project, so on and so forth, and then you take the time. Oh, here's what I was getting at. You're going to be taking every 20 minutes, because this is what the greats recommend whenever you're pursuing something and you're trying to rapidly learn something. So what Tim Ferriss recommended, and many educators, I believe the educator who wrote the book A Mind for Numbers mentioned this as well. If you haven't read A Mind for Numbers, I'd recommend you look that up and read that, because it's very germane to the topics that we discuss here. But she said you study for 20 minutes, then take a break for 5 minutes. Then study for 20 minutes, take a break for 5 minutes. We recommend that you do this also. Pursue a line of thought for 20 minutes, and then take a break for 5 minutes. That way you get refreshed, that way you can relax, and you can allow yourself during that 5 minutes to actually do the things that we talked about avoiding just a few seconds or a few minutes ago. So for that 5 minutes, you can look on social media. For that 5 minutes, you can listen to a song, you can meditate, do anything that will get you sort of into that non-focused focus, so to speak. And then ideas will come to you usually during that time, because remember, there's non-focused focus and there's focused focus. We're going to be talking about this more as well, but So take breaks, ladies and gentlemen, and don't tire yourself out. The exception to this is when you're on a path and you're in flow, ladies and gentlemen. Now, when you're in flow, you'll know it because time just passes. You forget things. You feel like you're in a meditative state, like the Buddhists and Hindus call samadhi. You will feel like you're in samadhi, and you will be basically carried along. Don't take a break then, because that would be forced. Just allow yourself to go. And when you get into that, ride that wave, ladies and gentlemen. It's what these sessions are going to do. That's the real reason behind this planning process. The real reason behind this planning process, I'm going to let you in on my secret here now. The real reason I'm teaching you and giving you this planning process is not so that you'll accomplish your desires, because your desires are already accomplished. So why would I give you this? Because I want you to experience flow, because I want you to experience the exhilaration that comes from actually sitting down and doing this. Believe me, you're going to love it, and it's going to be a great pursuit, and if you haven't done it before, it's going to be a beautiful experience for you, and you're going to be wanting to do it more and more. So perhaps then you take a break, and then you can get back to your piece of paper and start saying, okay, let's pretend that I'm already in that 6-month iterative process, that 6-month planning process. I'm not there yet, so it doesn't matter. And this is where it really gets fun, ladies and gentlemen. And this is why you give yourself these periods, like this pre-planning period. I'm not yet even in the testing stages, so there's no pressure, and I can just play, okay? I can say, okay, what if I was already in this? I don't have to do anything, but just in my imagination. It's October 3rd, and I'm already in the iterative planning process. Okay, so what am I doing? Well, what if I wanted to, I don't know, you can do something totally off the wall. And the reason why you do things that are totally off the wall, that are in the extreme, something that you would, on this film roll, in the quote-unquote real world, maybe even embarrassed to tell people that you would never do, but it'll teach you lessons, ladies and gentlemen. It'll make associations in your brain, and it's going to basically, if you don't do it, or it doesn't materialize for you, you're going to be able to take the new associations, the new neural associations, and it's going to apply to everything else that you do. So, okay, what if I wanted to make money by taking people around in a hot air balloon? Okay, what if I wanted to get a fleet of hot air balloons? Well, I've never been in a hot air balloon, but it seems fun now. What would I need to do that? How could I do that within a year? How could I start making money from hot air balloons within a year? Well, how would I test this? Well, first I might need to learn how to ride a hot air balloon. Wait, do I even really need to learn it? Can I just start doing it? Are there any laws about it? Here, let me Google hot air balloons. Let me Google the laws about that. Could I take people on hot air balloon tours? How much does a hot air balloon cost? You see this random bubbling up and sort of like play, like child's play. It's this child's play, ladies and gentlemen, that we as adults don't usually allow ourselves to do. Why? Because it's not realistic, ladies and gentlemen, and, we might be ridiculed. What do you mean a hot air balloon? You're 40 years old. You're 38 years old. You've never done it, and, that's not something. You can't just start doing that. Well, right now we're in a session where we know that it's not happening in the real world. We know we're probably not going to do it, so we can allow our imaginations to fly. We can allow ourselves to play. This is sort of the way this develops, ladies and gentlemen. And so you can start doing that. You can start making associations. And then you may very well say, after you've juiced that for a little while, you can say, wow, 30 minutes have passed, or 20-something minutes have already passed, and this has been great, but now I have to tend to some other things, and this has actually been beautiful. I actually feel good, and I do. Just doing this myself, talking about me right now, right here, right now, I feel pretty good. And even though if if you were to ask a neutral judge, hey, has he made any progress whatsoever towards his plan? They might say, well, maybe just a little bit, but he hasn't really done anything. I mean, I don't see any physical numbers. But you have made great progress, ladies and gentlemen. And the progress is going to be measured by what happens when you sit down again to do this process tomorrow. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has just been a workshop of how to do the beginning stages of these processes. We're going to be doing many more of these, ladies and gentlemen. The next video is going to be about explaining more about the process, but as well as explaining, I'm going to stop and sit down and do these workshops to show you exactly how to set these up, how to do them. We're going to be showing you how to set up your space. There's a lot more to come, so you don't want to miss my videos in the next few weeks. So, ladies and gentlemen, remember, if I haven't asked you at the beginning of this, please subscribe to the channel, because you'll be joining a community of master manifestors. You'll be watching weekly videos about rapid lifestyle transformation, about getting you free from a job and a boss within 6 months to a year. And you'll be helping us get the word out, ladies and gentlemen. It's a word whose time has come, because if you're not noticing what's going on in the world, it calls for people who are independent, people who are free, and people who can create masterpieces without being pressured substantially by the prison grid. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I'm doing coaching calls. I will sit you down through this modality and create plans tailor-created for your situation to get you off the prison grid, to get you free from a job and a boss within 6 months to a year. I will put my email in the description. Email me. Those calls are taking off. So, ladies and gentlemen, until tomorrow, until very soon, it is Freedom Friday, ladies and gentlemen. We made it. And just bask in this Friday. Enjoy it. Enjoy the freedom that it signifies. And this is Javier saying ciao with much love and appreciation. We'll see you tomorrow.